Ooh, this is good. I don't even have to say anything, and you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's so good to be back home again. Just got back from St. Louis, Brooks and I, for the fourth and final Jubilee celebration of the season, and it was wonderful there as well. So anyway, greetings from our sisters and associates and staff and friends all in St. Louis. So it was very, very good. So today we welcome you to a two-part presentation. And the first part is, I'm sure you're all excited to hear about a review of our durable power of attorney healthcare. And I get to do that part, which I think it's time just for an overview, and you'll hear a little bit more about that shortly. And then we will also have a wonderful presentation from Sandy Kellerwertz from and about Our Lady of the Angels. So that's to entice you to stick through the first part that I'm going to give you, that you stay for Sandy's presentation. So before we jump into the information that I'd like to share, I would invite Sister Mary Kay Brooks to lead us in prayer.
Good afternoon. And so we pray. Creator God, who imagined the world and gave expression to all that is good and right and hopeful. Idea giver, who breathes life and hope and humility and sustains life with your presence. Come fill us with creativity and hope and breathe new inspiration into our hearts, souls, and minds. Help us reflect your innovation and artistry in the world. Be our inspiration and constant hope, and guide us to fresh and new ideas that give hope to our world. Amen.
Thank you, Brooks. So, the SSND, Durable Power of Attorney for Healthcare document, really mirrors the documents that are promoted within the states, the United States, and particularly our state of Wisconsin here. That document, as you well know, is a legal document that's meant to protect the legal rights of each person to make decisions about one's health care. That's really the reason. So our SSND document, I know you've all seen it because I would venture that all of you hopefully have signed one of those documents, but it specifies a sister's directives regarding future health care, which is including, but it's not limited to, life support treatment options, placement in healthcare facility, and even the possibility to donate an anatomical gift at the time of death. But all those things are spelled out and can be added on as much as a person desires in that document. When one of us fills out that DPOA form, whether it's for the first time or if you choose to update it in any way, it needs to be, as you know, signed, witnessed by two individuals who are not related to the sister, nor would they be named as an agent, nor would they provide health care for the one filling out the form. Okay, so kind of unrelated individuals, and it has to be notarized by a notary public. That person who signs must understand and sign that document of her own free will. And it says in the document very clearly, being of sound mind and memory, in order to be able to state her desired health care for when she's not able to say so herself, and also to name those persons that she would like to be her healthcare agent or agents, okay? You have an alternate agent, right? And maybe can name others. And to make sure that the agents would carry out the wishes of that individual, of the sister. That's the key right there. The DPOA document only goes into effect when a person is deemed to be incapacitated. That is the only time, and specifically, and I know those in the room who are in the healthcare profession know, that it has to have two physicians who decide and certify that the sister, because of any physical, cognitive, or mental condition, is unable to receive or evaluate information or to communicate decisions concerning her health care. Does that make sense? Okay. Once, Margie?
Does it mean that that can be done in the facility they live in without notifying the agents ahead of time?
Okay, so anytime that, what are you saying? If it's activated?
Can they be activated without notice to the agents ahead of time?
Yes, they can be activated by the two physicians wherever that sister is. If those who work with her and provide for her health care see that there's some concern about her making decisions for herself, absolutely, that can then happen. But then, hopefully, the next step would be to notify the agent or agents about that it's activated. Okay? Does that answer your question? Okay. You're welcome. Once the document is activated, the agent or agents are granted authority to make decisions that are specified in the document. Specified in the document. That is the main responsibility and the only legal obligation of the agent for healthcare. I hope you're hearing me say this very clearly. That means that it really is imperative that anyone who creates such a document talks to those proposed agents about her wishes ahead of time. And that's obviously should happen while she understands and has the capacity to discuss those issues with the agent or agents. And that sister would spell it out as best as possible in the document itself. And that might even also mean, by the way, including a desire to communicate to people not named in the document her desires when she's not able. For example, family members. They might not be named as an agent, but I know in my own document I say, please inform my sister of what's going on, that kind of thing. Okay, so I'm saying that to you, and you're saying, oh, we know this, Deb. But I've got to tell you, this is the next part of my talk. What is not the responsibility of an agent for healthcare? For some reason, dear friends, dear sisters, and colleagues, we have in the Milwaukee area been looking at this in a whole different way than anybody else in the entire province, which is kind of hard for me, as I'm here with you. I'm born and raised in Milwaukee. I've been part of this former Milwaukee province, and for goodness sake, I'm a lawyer. And so it's been kind of hard to explain to others why we look at it in different ways. So here it is what it is not. It's not the responsibility. Okay, it's only when making decisions about a sister's health care needs after the DPOA is activated, not before. Okay? So it's not about making decisions for a sister when she's able to say what her desires are. Does that make sense? Okay. It's not calling on a named agent to provide rides to appointments, go to the hospital or urgent care with a sister, cleaning out her apartment if she's moved to a healthcare facility, planning for one's funeral, any of those other things. Specific healthcare needs are to be met within the facility where a sister lives, as is overseen by administration, medical professionals, and the community coordinators, okay? Or wherever they would live, they're treating personnel. Now, saying that, because I know some of you are going to say, but, depending on the relationship between the sister who creates the document and the agent named, that person may want to have an active role in that sister's life if that sister agrees, or if that agent may have been named by the sister to do something specific for her while living, or even as part of her funeral plans. But that's a separate kind of agreement, okay? That's not because the person is the agent. So that is not a legal requirement of an agent named in the DPOA for health care. Any questions about that? Margie and then Mary. I will repeat the question. I know you do. Margie said that I said that the agent does not have a role before the sister is compromised. Not necessarily, not the role as agent. That is not right. Until it's activated, then that would be that responsibility of the agent. The person could have a role if you have a relationship with the person, you're a community member, a friend, whatever, and you want to assist. I would hope we do that for each other. But legally, no. Is that okay? Was there another part? Sure. Okay. Mhm. So I'll try to repeat what what Margie is asking is, what if before the DPOA is activated, that an individual tells her agent before she's officially the agent that she wishes some other things could happen, that she could name some other things in the document? Is that what you're saying, or that she has other? Oh, if she's voicing her opinion for something she needs in the facility, that to me is being an advocate, which you could do in any facility, and I would hope we would do for each other. So that has really, I'm hearing that's nothing to do with after a sister's incapacitated. I would hope you do that for each other. Okay, thank you. Mary. So Mary's asking, is there really room in the document to put specific things? We can add pages. Mhm. Yeah. So so the question is, how do you make it legal if you want to add additional items that aren't listed? And absolutely, if you can't fit it on the form, please, an addendum. You can, and then it'll all be signed and witnessed and notarized. Okay. And anytime there's a change, we have to do that again. Okay. And really, we should be reviewing these documents probably yearly, is my guess. Right? I'm seeing a yes. So I think that's important for all of us to do that. Okay, so good question. Any other questions right now? Okay, well, Sylvia?
What you are saying is if I make a change in a statement on my POA, on my power of attorney paper, I've got to have it re-notarized.
Yes, so Sylvia's asking if she's making a change on that form, it would have to be one statement. Even with one statement, it has to be not only re-notarized, but I would say at least have your signature, the witnesses, I think could do initials. I think legally we could initial it, but date it and notify those who have copies of it. So it would probably be with your doctor, for example, your physician, the agents you've named, whoever needs it, the facility, because people would need to know it. Otherwise, it's just useless, right? Your change won't even be acknowledged. So good questions. These are great. Yes? Okay, so I'm just hearing that, thank you for doing the notarizing, and that we've been actually doing the whole form over if there is a major change or a change to the document. And actually, that's probably a good practice, and it's cleaner all the way around. Yeah, so thank you for that. Okay. Yes.
My concern when I'm dying, that I'm adequately medicated. I don't want anything to, like, I don't feel like this place can adequately medicate people when they're dying. Can you put something like that in the document?
Okay, the question is about being adequately medicated at the time of dying. Is that possible to add that to the document? Is that the question? Yes, yes, yes. Medication absolutely is part of that. And if you don't see it on the form, you can add that, okay? But it is on the form. But the wording, if the wording isn't exactly to your liking, you can make it fit your desire, okay? Okay. Judy.
Just to clarify very directly, so if the sister and the community coordinators and whoever nurses make a decision and we make that decision, the POA doesn't, we don't need permission from the POA, correct?
Are you talking about before it's activated? That's absolutely correct. There's no decisions made by an agent until after the activation of the DPOA form that the sister is not able to make that decision. And the other piece to this, by the way, is that it has to be aligned with what is in the document. This isn't just, I'm the agent, so this is what I think should happen now. That doesn't, no. It's if you look at the documents, you look at the laws, it has to really be to support what is in the document. That's why it's important to say what you really mean it to say, to review it, to make sure it still says what you want, that the agents are still the ones you want. And that has nothing to do with when a sister is living here or any other facility and you're working with the folks that you're working with, the community coordinators, the healthcare professionals, and the sister's able to state her desires, that's fine. She can ask for help. She can ask for an advocate, and that's always a given. Call her community contact, whatever it is. But it's not up to the agent before. The agent really has no role legally until there's an activation of the DPOA. Right, and it has to be, again, as I said before, two physicians would have to agree that this person is not capable to make decisions regarding her health care, okay? Okay. I've got to say this, it's really hard to know how this assumption began in the former Milwaukee province, but as I said before, this is the only place in the Central Pacific province that has this issue about agents. I don't know how that happened, y'all, but I'm not going to dive into it. It's historic. Oh, I think somebody has an answer. Yeah. So we're asking, okay, the question was that the presumption was that the agent should be an SSND and not necessarily a family member or an associate or someone else, not an SSND. We've been asking for years now that an SSND be named, but you can have other people named as other alternative agents, or, as I said before, to make sure that they consult or talk to at least people that are close to that sister, like a family member. But yes, we have asked that it be an SSND because SSND, we're responsible for each other, okay, as SSND. That's part of why, big part of why we do that. So thank you for that question. That's a good point. Okay. So really, this is a good time to reassess our own personal DPOA forms and maybe communicate anew with those persons you name as an agent or agents as well as review for whom you might be named as an agent for that individual sister and how you have been looking at that role as an agent. So it's really a self-examination for yourself, but also for the others that you've been named for. What are you doing now for her? And what is actually required of you versus any expectations you have either put on yourself or what you felt others expected from you on behalf of the sister concerned. Because we can do that to each other, and it's not out of malice or anything like that. It's out of care and it's out of understanding. And I hate to say it, but none of us are getting younger, including me, believe it or not. And, it's not as easy. We may have said we would be the agent for a number of people, and being called upon to do things, we don't all have that energy or the capability or, even desire to do that all the time, So this is a good time to review that, okay? Does this make sense? Okay. Sylvia.
On the page where it says consent for release of medical info,
Mm-hmm.
so when we have a change of a counselor, for instance, they don't get reelected or you change your counselor,
Mm-hmm.
or the nurse now is not Chandra here, so Liz. So we got to change that. That means you got to go and get your notary public.
If you're talking about the consent form, the allowing permission for others to see your records, that does not need to be notarized.
Okay.
But yes, it needs to be updated when there's a change in community coordinator, if there's a change in the wellness nurse, if there's a change in council member, which will be happening. So that's, don't count the months, Brooks. Okay. Okay. So yes, absolutely, that needs to be updated. Okay. Yeah, no, these are good questions. Joan.
I'd like to explain a narrative that there's a sister who was going into hospice, and she called me and said, they gave me all these pages that I have to fill out and sign, and would you help me? And we went through every one, and it was the Wisconsin DPOA form. So I went on top of her refrigerator and got her SSND form, and when the hospice team or representative came, I simply said, will this work? And she said, oh, where did you get that? I've never seen it. And so that made me question, how is it passed on to
Mhm.
the authority, like, okay, in this case it was hospice care, who didn't have a clue.
Okay. So I'm not going to share the entire story, but I will say that what Joan is mentioning is how do we make sure that these documents are given to those who need to see it, like hospice care workers or any other situation. It could be emergency workers that come to a home. So that's why it's important that it's placed in first with, like I said, physician. You're always required when you go to the hospital, to bring along the document or to have it available. It's available here. It's in your personnel file. So it's to make sure we share those. And when this document was created specifically for SSND, and I remember this well, it was to make sure that it reflected the Wisconsin statutes, okay? And the other statutes, by the way, not just Wisconsin, but across all the states, really, that we're located. So it's legitimate, it's legal, it's, all of that, but it's specific to us. I mean, it begins with a quote from You Are Sent. So how much more can it, not be us? But that's important, Joan, because paper is just paper if it's not handed on to somebody and made known that this is your desire. Okay. I hope that kind of answers what you're, okay.
I've got a cordless mic. I'll just bring that around.
Thank you. That
Wonderful. If you've moved a few times, I think I know where my paper is, but I'm not sure. Is there some place that I can go and ask someone to see a copy of mine to make sure it is up to date?
You can check, I think the administrative assistants, I don't know if you, I would check here with Lisa Rellinger, start
Okay.
there. We'll find it.
Okay, thank you.
We'll find. Oh, and Liz, okay, Liz Keller.
Liz Keller might have it.
Okay, yeah, but let's start with the executive assistants, and then we'll check with wellness or wherever. And maybe it's time to do a new one. I know. Thank you, Katie. Okay. Anybody else? Wait 1 second, huh? Fran?
When you asked that question, when I got a call one day from the hospital that I was somebody's agent, and I said, it was a message left on the phone, which gave me time to think. And I went to one of the council members, and she pulled up a copy to send to the hospital because the hospital desperately needed a copy of it. So there are ways to get copies if we need it. And I was so grateful that she said, I said, how do I get a copy? And send it to the hospital because I'm not the agent, but I know she has agents.
That's great.
So that's one way you can always find it. Right
Thank
to the
you.
council.
Thank you so much. And that's right. As Brooks reminded me, it's also in our database, so we could always pull that up. Any of us, council members have it, and a number of others have the database connection. Okay, Sylvia, did you have something? You want to wait for the mic, please? We'll give them their exercise here. Yeah, but we're recording this also, so.
This has to do with funeral plans.
Mhm.
Is that okay to bring that up now?
You can bring up,
Okay.
yes.
I'm not sure where my funeral plan is now. And it was done, like a long time ago, it seems. I'd kind of like to redo it. Better not live much longer. I want to redo it again.
Okay.
Anyway, I was wondering how I go about getting that one taken back and putting out a new one.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you have those in the office here for those living here. Okay, but we check again with the executive assistant, with Lisa. We'll track it down for you. We'll find it. Lisa Rellinger in our office here at Mayfair Woods. So Judy said there are empty forms, though, if you want to, and you can start anew. So Judy's saying those in assisted living have a copy in their file. So, and she would be happy to pull it out if you'd like to review it. Okay. Okay. Any other questions right now? Pretty clear, do you think? Is it kind of time for a fresh way of looking at this? Please, Mary Ann.
I don't know if there are any other questions, but before we end, I just really want to thank you for taking the time to clarify this. I know there have been situations where people have been caregivers or friends and think that they have more influence or should have more influence or are offended because they're not consulted, and it's way before the time that they should be. So I thank you for putting this in better perspective for people, for me too.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Marianne, for saying that. Okay, Barb?
And on the other hand, I think we also need to know, and I think it was clarified, what our role as an agent is, and not feel like, in the past, I've gotten calls even from hospitals and whatever, when a person was not on a declared incompetent, and I was pulled into stuff that I didn't need to be pulled into. And so we need to know when we can say that that's not my role, and feel okay with that and not that we're shirking a responsibility. Because that has happened to me in 2 different situations where I've gotten pulled into stuff, and at the time I didn't have that clarity. So
Right. No, thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for saying that. And so this is going to not just sisters, this is going to our staff and those who work with us. So everybody is getting the same message. And we all know we need to work on this together. Like I said, for some reason, we've had this vision of an agent in this part of the world that's very unique. So we're hoping to make it what it really is and not put extra burdens on anybody. Okay. Yes, Karen.
When you were giving your explanation, I think I heard you say 2 doctors had to agree.
Yes.
My remembrance is that at Christmas time, when I was taken to the hospital, there was a doctor there that I did not know at all, but that doctor was the person who declared that I did not have the capacity to make my own decisions. And I do not know that there was a second doctor.
Okay. So I don't know that circumstance, but my guess is you don't have an activated DPOA right now. So that's what it's for, the 2 physicians. It could be if there's an emergency situation and you're not able to, to respond. That's one thing that's different from activating the durable power of attorney, which is moving into the future decision making. Does that make sense? If it's an emergency situation, that's a little bit different because they have to act at the moment and help you out. And if you can't say, I need to be resuscitated, they're going to resuscitate you. Okay, yeah, so that's the difference. This is, once the activation happens with the DPOA, that's to make decisions moving into the future. Okay. Hope that makes sense. Okay. Okay. All right.